Hello from the Makery. We're currently closed right now, but that doesn't mean you need to stop making. On today's New Skill Saturday, I'm going to show you how to do glass etchings from home. One of the main ingredients you are going to need for this project is glass etching cream. You can get this at any craft supply store like Michael's, Joann's, or Hobby Lobby. The brand that I'm using for today's video is called Armour Etch. It is very important that you read all of the labels and safety instructions on the bottle. For instance, this brand specifically says it must be used by someone who is 18 and older, and that you must wear rubber gloves and a mask when using the etching cream. It is also highly recommended that you use it in a well-ventilated space. You're also going to need a foam brush to apply the etching cream onto your glasses, and of course, you're going to need glasses. One of the benefits to using etching cream is that you can use almost any style of glass, including stemless wine glasses or mugs with handles. For anyone who has used our laser cutter before, they might recall that these types of glasses don't fit in the laser cutting machine, which is why some people prefer the etching cream. It's more versatile. We also recommend that you clean your glass with rubbing alcohol before you get started to make sure any oils from your skin or any dust or dirt is off your glass before you use the etching cream. Lastly, you're going to need a stencil. You can buy pre-made stencils at crafting stores like Michael's, Joann's, and Hobby Lobby, but today I am going to show you how to make a custom stencil using Stencil Vinyl, transfer tape, and an X-acto knife. Stencil vinyl and transfer tape usually come in big sheets or in rolls, so you will need to cut them down to the size of your design. One of the benefits to using stencil vinyl is that it is a thin material, so it is easy to cut, and it is adhesive on the backside, which will make it easier for it to stick onto the glass and prevent it from shifting when using the etching cream. Transfer tape is just a big piece of tape. It's used to transfer your stencil design in one piece, so you're not peeling and applying the stencil piece by piece. I am not good at freehand drawing, so I printed my design on regular copy paper, and I am going to use a pencil and a pen to trace this design onto my stencil and then cut it. To prevent your paper and your stencil from moving during the tracing and cutting portion, it is useful to have some tape to tape it down and prevent it from shifting. So those are all the supplies that you need for this project. Let's get started. To get started on making a glass etching, you are going to need a design. As I mentioned, I'm not good at freehand drawing, so what I actually did was use Microsoft Word, and I typed out what I wanted to say and picked a font that I liked, and printed it out at the size that I want my stencil to be. For first timers, I recommend using a font or finding a design that is bold and has a lot of straight lines. The thinner your design is, the more curvy your design is, the harder it's going to be for you to cut. So if this is your first time, I do not recommend using any script fonts. I recommend using sans or serif fonts. Since I have my design ready to go, I'm gonna get ready to transfer it onto my stencil, so I am going to need a pencil, a pen, and some tape. So I'm gonna take my design, I'm gonna flip it over so I'm on the back side of my piece of paper, and I'm gonna take my regular pencil and I'm just gonna start shading the back side where my design is. The more pencil the better, so be very generous with your shading. And you wanna make sure that you're covering the entire design. We don't want to miss any parts. All right. Once I have my entire design shaded in, I can flip it back over to the right side. And what I'm going to do is get my stencil ready by taping it to the table. The reason I'm taping this is so that way the stencil doesn't move during the tracing part. If it moves and you have to realign it, it's very hard to align it correctly. So this will help me ensure that nothing shifts. So I have my stencil taped down. I am then going to take my design with the shaded backside touching the stencil. So I should be seeing my printed design on the top side. And again, for the same reason, I am going to tape this down onto my table so that way it does not shift when I trace it. Now that everything is taped down and secured, I can take my pen and I can start tracing the design. When you trace, you want to press firmly. The more you press down, the more likely it is that that graphite from the pencil shading is going to transfer onto the surface of the stencil and create lines and grooves for us to follow with the X-acto knife. So I'm going to take some time to trace. And once my tracing is all done, I can remove my design. Okay, so after tracing, you should see some very faint pencil marks. These are the lines that we're going to cut using our X-acto knife. So again, I recommend having your stencil taped down to avoid it shifting. And so we're going to go ahead and make our cuts. Okay, so after making all of the cuts, what you want to do is take the tip of your X-acto knife or use like a paper clip or a safety pin, and you want to separate where the cut is and get under your design to peel it up. And you want to make sure that you don't peel away any parts of the design that need to stay. Like for instance, the center of my A, I don't want to accidentally peel away, so I'm going to hold it down. And there we go, we've created our stencil. Now that we have our stencil cut out, we can transfer it onto our wine glass. So we're going to remove the tape. And now this is when we need the transfer tape. Again, the transfer tape is basically just a large sheet of tape that we're going to use to stick over top our entire stencil so we can move the stencil onto the glass in one piece. This will help us prevent from losing the A of our design or other pieces of your design depending on what you have. So we're going to take the transfer tape, we are going to peel it, and we are going to lay it on top of our stencil. You want to use a little bit of pressure to make sure that that transfer tape really sticks to the stencil. And then what you want to do is peel away your stencil with your transfer tape. And you want to make sure that you don't lose any parts of your design. So I still have the center of that A. And you want to take your stencil with your transfer tape and you want to line it up on your glass and apply it to your glass. And when you do this, I recommend starting in the center of your design and working your way out. The more spherical your glass is, like a wine glass, the harder it will be for your stencil to lay flat. So you will get some wrinkles in your design as you lay it down. What we want to do is avoid any wrinkles along the edges of your design. So we want a very even, secure application along the edges of your design. And if we get any wrinkles outside of your design, that is fine because it won't mess with the etching cream. So we're going to use our thumb and just work our way out. Make sure it really sticks to this glass. And once it seems like your stencil is on there fairly well, you can then peel off the transfer tape. And you want to be careful with this to avoid removing any parts of your stencil or creating more bubbles. So my transfer tape is removed, and I'm just going to go over one more time to get rid of any bubbles along the edges of my design. And so now that the stencil is on, we are ready to start using the etching cream. Now that the stencil is created and it's on our glass, we're ready to use the etching cream. I'm using the Armour Etch brand, and as a reminder, you have to be 18 years or older to use this etching cream, and you have to be wearing rubber gloves and a mask. So I'm going to go ahead and put my rubber gloves on. And if you haven't already done so, it's recommended that you take your paintbrush or a popsicle stick and you stir your etching cream before using to make sure that everything is good. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our brush, we're going to dip it in our etching cream, and we're going to start applying etching cream onto our stencil design area. Now you want to use a lot of etching cream. You want it applied as evenly as possible, and you want a lot on there. If you put too little, or if there's gaps in where the etching cream is, you'll end up with a splotchy or light etch. So be generous with your etching cream. Once you have your etching cream on your design, on your glass, you want to let it sit for 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes, we're going to rinse it in the sink. Okay, so it's been 5 minutes. It is now time to get rid of all the extra etching cream. So it's still important, since we're dealing with the etching cream, that you're still wearing your gloves and your mask. And so now what we're going to do is turn the water on. It just needs to be about like lukewarm temperature water, and we're going to rinse off all of this extra etching cream. After rinsing off the glass and removing the stencil vinyl, I went ahead and dabbed it dry with a paper towel, and there you have it, a finished at-home glass etching. We hope you enjoyed this project, and if you attempt it on your own, you can post about it on social media and tag us at AskElmhurst or #ElmhurstMakery. We look forward to seeing all of your creations. Have a nice day.